Hello, my friend. It's August 18th, 2020, and a new moon in Leo, which is part of the reason I feel inspired to come and share with you some of what I have been learning the invitation is during this new moon, and also the 2 essential oils that I have felt drawn to work with based on what I've learned about this new moon in Leo. And actually, one of the essential oils is an essential oil that I have been drawn to work with lately, probably the last 3 weeks, without even really knowing much about this new moon. So it's quite interesting that this came back around to me. So first I'll talk a little bit about the invitation of this new moon, sort of the themes, and then I'll talk about the essential oils. Now, you probably know this about me, but I do happen to be an essential oil specialist and work a lot with the way that the oils can support our well-being, but I am not an expert in astrology. I'm a student of both, but very much a student of astrology in the sense that it's not something that I practice or have formally studied. So I'm bringing you information that I've gathered along the way as a student from various teachers and astrologers, and so it's something that you can always dive deeper into. I'm just going to kind of give you a real general idea of kind of what I have come to. So this new moon in Leo. Leo is a fire sign, and it also rules and governs the heart. So Leo is the season of Leo that we're in, and the new moon in Leo is sort of an invitation to come into the heart, and the heart being that place where we think of receiving and giving love, but also physically, the heart being that organ in our body that is really an important part of the cardiovascular system, not only starting with pumping out blood to the blood vessels and all of that circulation, but also just in that maintaining of circulation. So circulation, cardiovascular health, the heart, and then also, like I said, that place where we give and receive love from. And then the second theme that I see keep coming up over and over again is Leo is about stepping into our purpose and knowing what that is and having the courage to take action on that, having the courage to see it for what it is and maybe even share it outwardly. So I think of it in that sense where we start in the heart space and then we circulate that outwards. You know, we find that purpose within and then circulate it outwards. And the third theme is around that fiery energy of Leo. So it's like it's an invitation right now for us to feel that motivation and energy towards actually moving forward on it, actually doing something with it, not just letting it be inside within our hearts and knowing that purpose and knowing even maybe how we want to do it, but actually starting to do it and having the energy to do that because this fire energy is assisting us in that. So those are sort of the 3 themes: the heart, the connection with purpose, and that fiery motivation energy that I see within the new moon in Leo and the things that I have studied about this and seen as far as themes. And the 2 essential oils that I'm going to share now with you are Ylang and Basil. So let's start with Ylang. This is very interesting because this is the oil that actually I have felt drawn to working with the last few weeks, even before knowing much about this new moon or even really associating it with Leo season. But Ylang is actually a very important oil for the cardiovascular system. So it helps our circulation, it helps our cardiovascular function, it can help regulate healthy blood pressure. And being that it is a floral oil, it has a very soft aroma. It's very feminine in nature, so it has more of this yin energy. So if you think of yin and yang, yin being feminine and soft and flowy and fluid and maybe slower versus yang being fast, masculine, fiery. To me, the Ylang is sort of the balance of that fiery Leo energy of forward motion. So you might think that it's helpful to match something that would match that fiery energy and kind of go along with it. Something, something like peppermint, which actually I think would be a good compliment because it's also cooling. But the reason that I'm thinking Ylang is just such a nice compliment is because sometimes when we have that fiery energy that we're working with and that strong motivation to move forward on things, sometimes we can get a little too directed in the sense that we don't pause or we don't allow ourselves to rest along the way. We think it always has to be push, 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 go, go, go. And I think Ylang offers us that reminder to slow down as well and to make sure that we're not burning ourselves out, basically. And it has this very calm energy to it. So this one actually can be really helpful if you struggle with nervous tension, whether that be physically or emotionally, insomnia, troubles, anything related to sleep. It's a real calming oil, things related to the heart, like I said, and it is a support for the adrenal glands as well, and basil is too. So let's talk about basil now. Oh, one more thing about Ylang Ylang. I have to tell you this because it's really interesting. Ylang Ylang from doTERRA is sourced from Madagascar, and this is probably true other places as well, but I learned it from the sourcing video that doTERRA has talking about how they source in Madagascar. Ylang Ylang is a flower that grows all times of year, but it actually has high seasons and low seasons for its harvesting. So I think that's such a reminder of the cyclical nature of things, that maybe we can be in production all year, but there's high seasons and low seasons. There's times to see that outward production and maybe times to let things rest and have a different kind of work or a different kind of effort. So I think that's just a perfect reminder of what Ylang Ylang is all about and what it can offer us. So now on to basil. Basil is also a cooling and a more yin oil. So it sort of has a spicy aroma. To me, it's very much an herb oil. A lot of us are familiar with basil in the garden or putting it on our foods or having it in Italian dishes, but beyond that, it is a very cooling and yin oil. So also maybe more feminine in nature. And I think of basil in the sense that it helps us to release that mental and physical tension as well. So again, in those times when we're feeling that drive and that motivation towards things, we can get into a cycle of maybe pushing too hard, or we feel overwhelmed with all of the things that are possibilities. So I feel like along with Ylang Ylang, basil really balances this out and helps us to not feel so overwhelmed and maybe not burn ourselves out as easily because we are able to manage that drive and that motivation. So great way to use basil would be actually on your low back over the adrenal glands, and that would be the same for Ylang Ylang. You could do that. Of course, either of these, you can take a drop in your hand, rub it together, inhale deeply, diffuse them. I would think of Ylang Ylang also putting it over the heart. Basil, you could do the same, but on the low back. So again, we talked about Ylang Ylang, being an oil associated with the heart, cardiovascular, Leo season. I just think that all lines up really well. And then basil on the adrenal glands is really perfect. They're both cooling, like I said, so they're great to put on topically, like when we're in the midst of this summer heat, at least in the northern hemisphere. So let's see what else about basil. In the Emotions and Essential Oils book, it is the oil of renewal. So it really does talk about that ability that it has to support our adrenals, to support us when maybe we are feeling burnt out, mentally or physically fatigued. And Ylang Ylang is the oil of the inner child. So to me, that is so important as well, because again, maybe the opposite of work is play or pause. And I think if we need that remembering of keeping things playful and fun and not focusing so much on the work only, and realizing that there's all parts to this whole thing, and even within our purpose we might feel very driven towards accomplishing something, but not to forget that there's so many parts to that, and being playful is maybe one of them. If you actually look at your birth chart and know how to read that, in the sense that you can see which house Leo is in, you can see how you might work more closely with that, or what part of that different houses have different themes. So which maybe area of your life that you'll be working with, and maybe you want to set intentions in, because the new moon is a great time to set intention. So it can be general, and if you don't know anything about your birth chart, or don't want to explore that route, that's totally fine. But for those of you that might know a little bit about that, if you want to look into it and see which house it's in and which area of your life it would be associated with, then that would be important to look at too, and just give you more information about how to set intentions around that. And the reason I thought of that as well is because I know that Leo is in my 5th house, and the 5th house is about fun. And so Ylang being that oil of the inner child, it's just so interesting that that's come to me recently. And a lot of my intentions would be very purposefully set around fun, around play, around those things that are enjoyable, and not forgetting those things in the midst of all of these forward-moving ideas and projects and all the other things that are going on, because that's definitely happening too. So, a great place to start is if you have Basil or Ylang, or both. If you don't have either one yet, it's okay. You can still do this, but if you have them now, take 1 drop of one of them or both of them in your hand. I already have quite a bit of it on my hands. Rub them together. And if you don't have these, it's okay. Just take a deep breath in and let it go. You may even want to put one hand on your heart if you don't have the oils especially. And then if you do, one hand on your heart, and even use the other hand with the oils that you have on there. Another deep breath in, let it go. Let that belly expand out as you breathe in. Breathe in. Fully let it go. One more time. Fully in. And fully letting go. Happy new moon in Leo. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And I'll talk to you again really soon.